Did you know your brain cleans itself while you sleep? Every single day, your brain produces toxic protein waste. And while you sleep, it activates a hidden cleaning system designed to flush those toxins out before they build up. But after 60, that system starts slowing down, not because of age alone, because of small nighttime habits that silently interfere with the brain's ability to repair itself. The scary part? Most people repeat these habits every night without realizing the damage they may be causing. If you have noticed more brain fog, slower memory, mental fatigue, or moments where words take longer to appear, this is not just getting older. There is a biological reason behind it. And tonight, I'm going to show you exactly what is happening inside your brain while you sleep, and the simple 4-step protocol that may help protect your memory naturally. I'm Dr. Gloria Reed, and what you are about to learn could completely change the way you sleep after 60. Before I explain the mechanism behind what is happening in your brain tonight, I want to give you something you can use right now. Here is your immediate action. Tonight, set your bedroom thermostat or your window to between 65 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit before you go to sleep. That is it. One number, one dial. Here is why it matters. Your core body temperature must drop by approximately 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit for your brain to enter the deep, slow-wave sleep stage, where the brain's waste clearance system activates. When the room is too warm, anything above 70 degrees, that temperature drop is delayed or never fully achieved. The waste clearance system never gets its full activation window. You sleep, but your brain does not clean. Tonight, 65 to 67 degrees. If you cannot control your thermostat, a fan directed at your feet achieves a similar effect through surface cooling. You will likely notice the difference in how you feel tomorrow morning within the first few days of doing this consistently. Keep that in mind, because when I show you the full 4-step protocol later, this temperature piece is not optional. It is the foundation. Most people believe that sleep quality is mostly about how many hours you get. 8 hours is good, 6 hours is not. And that is not entirely wrong. But here is the part that changes everything, and that almost nobody explains. The number of hours you sleep matters far less than which sleep stages you actually reach, and for how long. And there is one specific biological system that only activates during the deepest stage of sleep, that most people over 60 are barely accessing at all. That system is called the glymphatic system. Discovered in 2013 by Dr. Micah Nedergaard and her team at the University of Rochester, the glymphatic system is a network of channels that surrounds the blood vessels in your brain. During deep, slow-wave sleep, the brain cells, the glial cells, actually shrink by up to 60% of their normal size. This shrinkage opens up the channels between cells, and cerebrospinal fluid is pumped through at high pressure, flushing out the metabolic waste that accumulated during the day. The most important waste product it removes is beta amyloid, the protein that, when it accumulates unchecked, forms the plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. Your brain is like a city that generates garbage all day. Every taxi ride, every delivery truck, every restaurant open for business, all of it produces waste that needs to go somewhere. The glymphatic system is the city's sanitation department. The cleaning crews only come at night during the deep shift, and they only work properly when the streets are clear and conditions are right. If you keep interrupting that shift, with alcohol, with a warm room, with bright screens that delay the start, the garbage does not get collected. It stays in the streets. Night after night, it accumulates. And that accumulation in your brain has a name: beta amyloid plaques. Before I go further, I want to ask you a direct question. Have you been told to just sleep more or cut back on screens, and felt like you tried and nothing really changed? Just comment yes or no below, because what I am about to explain is specifically why generic sleep advice fails and what you actually need to do differently tonight. Let me develop this further. because understanding the glymphatic system changes everything about how you approach sleep. Think of your brain not as a single organ, but as a very dense city with billions of residents, neurons, who are working constantly. By the end of a full day of thinking, remembering, problem-solving, and processing emotion, those residents have generated significant metabolic byproducts. Beta amyloid is one, tau protein is another. These are the two proteins most strongly associated with Alzheimer's pathology. They are not signs of disease by themselves, they are normal byproducts of neural activity. The disease begins when they are not cleared. When the sanitation system fails, the same normal waste becomes the problem. The critical detail is this: the glymphatic system does approximately 90% of its work during deep slow-wave sleep, specifically during the first 2 sleep cycles of the night, which occur in the first 4 hours. This means that the beginning of the night is disproportionately important. An interruption in the first 2 hours, alcohol metabolizing, a too warm room preventing core temperature drop, a stress hormone keeping the brain alert, disrupts the deepest and most productive clearing window. In day-to-day terms, when the glymphatic system is underperforming, the effects show up as slower recall in the morning, a sense of cognitive heaviness that takes hours to lift, difficulty accessing specific words, and a general feeling that your thinking is slightly behind your intention. Over months and years, the accumulating beta amyloid begins to interfere structurally with the synaptic connections in the hippocampus, the memory formation center. A 2019 study published in Science, led by Dr. Laura Lewis at Boston University, used fMRI imaging to directly observe glymphatic flow during different sleep stages, and found that deep, slow-wave sleep produced a rhythmic, pulsing cerebrospinal fluid flow that was entirely absent during light sleep and REM. The implication was direct. Time in deep sleep is not interchangeable with time in lighter stages. Deep sleep is when the brain actually cleans. The immediate action you already have, setting your room to 65 to 67 degrees, works precisely because it facilitates the core temperature drop required to enter and sustain deep, slow-wave sleep. Temperature is not a comfort preference, it is a biological trigger. Get the temperature right, and the glymphatic system has the conditions it needs to do its job in that critical first clearing window. The second mechanism is less known and arguably more actionable because it addresses a deficiency that affects the majority of adults over 60 without any obvious symptoms. Magnesium is the mineral your brain uses to regulate the NMDA receptor, the gateway that controls how deeply your neurons can settle into rest during sleep. When magnesium levels are sufficient, the NMDA receptor stays properly gated during sleep, allowing the electrical activity of neurons to slow into the long, synchronized waves that define deep sleep. When magnesium is low, which it is in an estimated 68% of adults over 60, according to data published in Nutrients, the NMDA receptor stays partially open. Neurons remain in a semi-activated state. Deep, slow-wave sleep becomes fragmented, shallow, and brief. Imagine the NMDA receptor as a volume dial for neural activity. During the day, you want that dial turned up. Neurons firing fast, sharp, responsive. During deep sleep, you need that dial turned almost all the way down. Magnesium is what turns the dial. Without enough of it, you cannot fully lower the volume. The cleaning crew shows up, but the city is still half awake. The streets are never quite clear enough for them to work efficiently. In practical terms, people with low magnesium often report that they sleep a full 7 or 8 hours and wake up feeling like they barely slept at all. The hours are there, the depth is not. They are spending the night in stage 1 and stage 2 sleep, present, breathing, technically asleep, but never reaching the stage where glymphatic clearance happens at full efficiency. A 2022 study published in the European Journal of Nutrition, conducted by researchers at the Australian National University led by Dr. Erin Walsh, followed 6,000 adults over age 40 and found that adequate dietary magnesium was directly associated with larger brain volume, specifically in regions including the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex, and that the effect was most pronounced in adults over 60. The researchers concluded that magnesium plays a structural protective role in the aging brain, not just a functional one. These two mechanisms, glymphatic clearance and magnesium-dependent sleep depth, do not work in isolation. They feed each other. When your room is at the right temperature, you enter deep sleep faster. When your magnesium levels are adequate, you stay in deep sleep longer. When both conditions are met, glymphatic clearance operates at full capacity. Addressing only temperature or only magnesium produces partial results. Addressing both is what produces the kind of morning clarity that people describe as different from anything I've felt in years. Before I walk you through exactly how to do this, I want to be direct with you. What I am describing is not a replacement for medical care. If you have a diagnosed sleep disorder, if you are on sleep medication, if you have kidney disease, speak to your doctor before adding magnesium supplementation. What this protocol is: an evidence-supported, low-risk set of changes that work alongside what you are already doing. For most people, these are not medical interventions. They are corrections to conditions that should have been right all along. Most people who try to improve their sleep for brain health make one error that completely cancels the benefit. They focus exclusively on the end of their night, the moment they lie down, the supplement they take right before bed, the screen they finally put away, and they ignore the 90-minute window before sleep begins. Here is what is actually happening biologically. Your brain begins its preparation for deep sleep not when your eyes close, but approximately 90 to 120 minutes before you fall asleep. During that window, melatonin begins to rise, core body temperature begins its descent, and adenosine, the chemical pressure that drives sleep depth, reaches its peak. If you introduce bright light during this window, cortisol is released and melatonin is suppressed. If you eat a large meal, your core temperature rises as digestion increases metabolic activity. If you consume alcohol, it may induce sleep onset faster, but it fragments deep, slow-wave sleep severely in the second half of the night, precisely when the secondary glymphatic clearing window occurs. The result: people add magnesium, set their thermostat, and still wonder why they are not sleeping deeply. They are undoing the preparation in the 90 minutes before the preparation is supposed to pay off. Here is the correct way. Step 1. Temperature. Set your sleep environment to 65 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit, starting 30 minutes before bed. If you share a bed, use a cooling pad on your side, a fan directed at your feet, or a lighter blanket layer that you can control independently. The target is for your body to feel slightly cool, not cold, when you lie down. That slight coolness is the physiological signal that accelerates the core temperature drop required to enter deep sleep. Step 2. Magnesium glycinate. Take 300 to 400 milliliters of magnesium glycinate, not magnesium oxide, not magnesium citrate, specifically glycinate, 45 to 60 minutes before your target sleep time. The glycinate form has the highest absorption rate and the lowest likelihood of digestive side effects. Do not take magnesium with calcium supplements. They compete for the same absorption pathway. Do not take it the same time as zinc for the same reason. Take it alone with a small glass of water. The glycinate form also has a mild anxiolytic effect. It reduces the low-level mental activation that keeps many people in light sleep. This is not sedation. It is the nervous system finding its natural resting tone. Step 3. Screen elimination, 90 minutes before bed. This is not about blue light, despite what most articles say. Blue light is a relatively minor factor. The primary issue is cognitive activation, the alerting response your prefrontal cortex has to any content that requires evaluation, reaction, or emotional processing. News, social media, email, all of them trigger micro-stress responses that elevate cortisol and delay melatonin onset. Replace the 90-minute window with dim, incandescent or candlelight, audio content that does not require visual attention, light conversation, or simply sitting quietly. The goal is for your prefrontal cortex to deactivate gradually, not to be snapped off the moment you close your eyes. Step 4. Sleep position. This is the detail almost no one addresses. Sleep on your side, specifically your left side when possible. Research published in the Journal of Neuroscience by Dr. Helena Benveniste at Stony Brook University found that lateral sleeping position, side sleeping, increased glymphatic transport efficiency by approximately 25% compared to sleeping on your back. The mechanism is anatomical. Cerebrospinal fluid flows more efficiently through the glymphatic channels when the brain is in lateral orientation. Left side specifically is preferable because it reduces pressure on the heart and keeps the glymphatic drainage pathways, which run partly through the lymphatic vessels in the neck, from being compressed. If you are a back sleeper, place a pillow under your knees and a second thin pillow along your side to encourage rotation. Most people naturally shift within the first 20 minutes if the initial position is close. What not to do with this protocol? Do not add melatonin to this stack unless directed by a physician. Supplemental melatonin in doses above 0.5 bn's has been shown to disrupt the natural melatonin rhythm over time in adults over 60, potentially worsening sleep architecture long term. Do not take magnesium glycinate with food if possible. It absorbs significantly better on an empty stomach or with only a small amount of water. Do not assume results in the first night. The glymphatic system requires several nights of improved sleep architecture before the clearing function begins operating at full efficiency. What to expect? Day 7. Most people report that the heaviness upon waking is slightly less. Not dramatically, slightly. The morning mind clears faster. The first 30 minutes of the day feel less like recovery and more like starting. This is the glymphatic system beginning to clear beta amyloid that had accumulated during weeks or months of suboptimal sleep. Day 14. Word retrieval begins to improve. The pause before a name arrives gets shorter. Dreams become more vivid, which is a marker of better REM cycling, which follows improved deep sleep. People often report remembering more of what they dreamed, which is itself a sign that memory consolidation during sleep is functioning more efficiently. Day 30. The cumulative effect of consistent deep sleep becomes noticeable to others, not just to you. Faster response in conversation, less reliance on written reminders for things you used to remember automatically, a reduction in the background cognitive fog that had become so familiar you stopped noticing it until it starts to clear. Remember when I opened this video with the question about your brain producing toxic waste every day? By day 30, what you are feeling is the difference between a brain that has been clearing that waste consistently versus one that had been accumulating it for months or years. That difference is not subtle. 3 additional factors amplify the protocol. Each one takes under 5 minutes. Each has a direct, documented mechanism. Supporting factor 1. A 10-minute walk after your largest meal of the day. Physical activity after eating reduces blood glucose spikes, which, when they occur at night, disrupt sleep architecture by triggering cortisol release in the early hours of the morning. A 2022 review in Sports Medicine found that post-meal walking of as little as 10 minutes reduced next morning fasting glucose compared to sitting. Lower glucose variability overnight means fewer cortisol interruptions to your deep sleep window. Walk outside if possible. The light exposure also helps regulate your circadian anchor point for the evening. Supporting factor 2. No alcohol within 3 hours of sleep. Alcohol is metabolized by the liver at approximately 1 drink per hour. When alcohol is still metabolizing during sleep, it produces a compound called acetaldehyde, which fragments slow-wave sleep severely, specifically in the second half of the night. People who drink moderately often fall asleep easily, but wake at 2 or 3 a.m. This is not coincidence. It is the acetaldehyde disruption. Moving alcohol consumption to earlier in the evening allows it to fully clear before the deep sleep window opens. Supporting factor 3. 4-count inhale, 6-count exhale. 5 minutes before you touch your phone in the morning. Cortisol naturally peaks in the first 30 minutes after waking. This is called the cortisol awakening response. Checking your phone immediately amplifies this spike by adding cognitive and emotional activation on top of the biological peak. 5 minutes of slow exhale extended breathing, which activates the parasympathetic nervous system, does not eliminate the cortisol response, but it prevents the amplification. Over time, it resets the morning cortisol baseline, which directly affects how deeply you sleep the following night. Here is what this video covered. Your brain has a dedicated overnight waste clearance system, the glymphatic system, that depends on deep slow-wave sleep to function. 2 mechanisms determine how deeply you sleep: your core temperature drop and your magnesium status. And there is a 90-minute preparation window before bed where most people accidentally undo all their good intentions. Your brain did not develop this problem in a week. It will not fully recover in a few days. That is biology, not failure. What the research consistently shows is that targeted, consistent changes to your sleep environment, the kind you started learning tonight, produce measurable structural changes in brain health over 30 to 90 days. Not overnight, but reliably. If you want to track your progress with this protocol, leave the word clarity in the comments below. I read every one, and I want to know how your mornings change. In the next video, I am going to show you a vitamin deficiency that affects 1 in 3 adults over 60, one that standard blood tests almost always miss, that is directly linked to shrinking brain volume in the hippocampus. The form your doctor prescribes is not the form that reaches the brain. That distinction matters more than most people realize. Your brain is not broken. It adapted. And when you give it what it needs, it adapts back. Not instantly, but reliably. I will see you in the next one.